We'll start with the identification tag on the side. Here you'll find your manufacturer, the date it was manufactured, your VIN number, your gross weights, tire sizes and pressures. Underneath you have a couple tire charts, and in the yellow you find your VIN number and your cargo weights. Front is your battery. These aren't maintenance-free batteries. You may have to add water to them at some point. If you're not going to be using your unit for a while, I would disconnect it, and there is a battery disconnect right next to it. And for winter storage, I would put it somewhere warm. Two 20-pound propane tanks. You have a selector in the middle, little arrow points to which tank's going to be supplying the propane. Power jack at the front. You have an on and off switch for the light and up and down. Your breakaway here. Just a note with these, if your battery's hooked up and if this key gets pulled out, it does activate your brakes. If it's left like that for an extended period of time, it's going to drain your battery and it can do damage to your brakes. So that's just one thing, just kind of keep an eye, make sure that key stays in there. Front cubby, you got your short cord, your crank for your stabilizer jacks, a table for outside. There is a stabilizer jack in all four corners. One thing with these, they're not meant for leveling. They're just meant for, putting pressure down on the ground so your trailer don't rock. So don't try to, lift your unit with them. They'll bend, and they're not heavy duty enough for that. So yeah, just crank them down so you got pressure on the ground. That's all you can do with them. Under the slide, there's a couple arms. Just kind of keep an eye, make sure everything stays clean underneath here and everything should work smoothly for you. In behind your slide, you have your plug for your short cord here, 30 amp. Your water fill, black tank flush is the one with the orange. If you are going to be using your flush for your black tank, just make sure that you have your black tank valve open. If you don't, it's going to fill your tank up and probably make a big mess. So just make sure if you are going to flush your tank, make sure you're draining it with your black tank valve open. City water connect. If you got a campground that has the water right at your campground, you can just run your garden hose into there. A couple TV satellite hookups. These are inputs. You have an outside shower with hot and cold. Down here, your sewer dump. That's your black there. And in front of the front tire, you'll see there's one there, and that's your gray tank over there. On these wheels, the center cap pops off. There is grease nipples in behind. You can grease your wheel bearings on these. It's not a bad idea to do it a couple times a year, give her a couple shots. If you are putting lots of miles on though, I do recommend getting them repacked. In the back here, another stabilizer jack in this corner. In the bumper is your sewer hose. Spare tires mounted on the back. Up top there, you'll see there's a mount. That's for a backup camera. These units are pre-wired for them. So if that's something you're interested in doing in the future, they're very easy to hook up. Have a rear ladder. I do recommend going up on your roof once or twice a year, taking a look, especially if you had a big storm. Just kind of take a peek, make sure you don't have any crack vents, anything that might leak water. In this cubby here, you have an outside grill. These ones here are made for the 1 pound bottles, propane bottles. And then you have your outside kitchen. A sink, nice size fridge, a light here, power outlet. Satellite or cable hook up here. This is output, so if you're going to mount a TV or put a TV outside, this is where you'd be hooking it up to. And then you have your 110 power outlet there. One thing with, you'll notice there's a hole in between the tires here in the fender skirt. So that goes in behind. There's a rod with a nut welded on there. You can use your crank for your stabilizer jacks on that. And that's a manual, you can manually crank your slide in. If you ever having problems with no power, you can use your crank for your stabilizers and manually crank your slide in. Couple outside speakers, entrance light, entrance doors, stairs. This vent here is for behind your fridge. All the controls are on the inside, so there is really no reason to go in there. Below that is your intake and exhaust for your furnace. And just to note, it gets really hot, so don't store anything in front of that if it's running. Above the window there is your exhaust vent for your range. And your hot water heater. Your hot water heater is propane and 110 electric. All the controls are on the inside. It's all on back. The only thing you really need to know back here is your plug goes into your drain here, and that's very important for your winterization. Make sure that your hot water heater is drained. The other plug here, and let's see if I can see it on this side. I think so. That's over underneath. So right there, you see that the hose coming down there? That's where that other plug goes. And that's your drain for your fresh water. And then back up to your front cubby again. The light switch in here, there's a light, you can just press the button, it comes on. And the other light is for your cab lights there. So that, and there's a solar panel input here. If you ever wanted to add a solar panel, that's where you would plug it into. So I think that's it for the outside. We will head inside.